All right, welcome back from Thanksgiving. Hopefully you already did the do now on the board. But for this problem, here is the prompt. And it says Alexis wants to determine the side lengths of the triangle at the right. So this triangle right here. Unfortunately, he left his calculator at home and he does not remember what the value of cosine of 60 is. Now, before I do anything else, you probably remember already that cosine is always going to be of 60. So I'm talking about this angle right here. It's always SOHCAHTOA. So adjacent and hypotenuse. This is adjacent because it's right next to it. And this is the hypotenuse. So although we don't know what the exact value is, I do know that the cosine of 60 is equal to the adjacent, or A, over the hypotenuse, which is 2. So we got this far. Now let's take it a step further to the next part of this. So for this part, I'm telling you that he creates the triangle by reflecting the triangle across side B. So he got this part right here and pretty much made 2 of these triangles right here. What is the resulting shape? Now, I want to challenge you to maybe pause the video and try to see if you can figure out the sides. But if you need a couple hints, I will tell you that, let me get some different colors. This is the same as this. If this is 60, if this is 30, if this is 60, what must this be? Probably already guessed it, it's 30. So if I redrew it, oops, let me go back. Let me delete that. Let me just keep that over here. If I redrew it, I would get something like this. 60, 60, and 60 with a little green dash right here. Kind of helps you answer the first part. What type of shape is this? Well, this is, hopefully you remember from the beginning of the year, an equilateral triangle. Right? Why is it an equilateral triangle? Because if all the angles are the same, then all the sides also must be the same. So now let's think about it again. If I know that this is 2, this is A, this is B, if this side is the same as this side, and if this angle, these 2 triangles are just reflections of each other, then this side must also be the same as this one, correct? Let me get a different color. So, again, if this is the same as this, then 2 is equal to A plus this A. In other words, 2 equals 2A, or A equals 1. Go ahead and pause the video and let's see if you got that far. But we know that this right here is going to be 1. So, if I know that, I'm going to redraw this part again. If this is 90, going back to what we originally had, you just told me that this right here is 1, and this right here is 2. How can I find B? Now, some of you may have forgotten about this, but let me squish this up a little bit. I have a right triangle. If I let this equal to A, this equal to B, and this equal to C, then I probably remember that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now, in other words, if I plug this in, 1 squared plus B squared, it's still going to be B squared, equals C squared. Well, C squared in this case is 2, so 2 squared. If I continue this, what's 1 squared is 1. B squared is still going to stay as B squared. And 2 squared is 4. Subtract 1, subtract 1. Let me scoot this up. And now we get B squared equals 3. Hopefully you remember what to do after this. You take the square root, and b equals 3. Oops, sorry, square root of 3. So, final step, I'm going to redraw the triangle, and I'm going to say that this is going to be 1, this is going to be 2, and this is always going to be square root of 3 whenever I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Again, hopefully you were able to follow along. If not, please make sure you come back and rewatch the video. There's also another Khan Academy video on the School of G, but that's the rough idea behind it. So let me go on to what we actually just did. So the first special triangle that we're going to talk about, or we're going to see this week, is the 30, 60, 90 triangle. And what's so special about this triangle? It's half of an equilateral. And has the following ratios. Whenever this is 30, the side on the opposite side is always going to be x. And I'll show you how to use this in a little bit. 60, the side on opposite of that is always going to be x square root of 3. And last one, opposite of the 90 is always going to be 2x. Now make sure you write this down. This is probably going to be the most important part of the video. Here's our first example. So first label all the sides in the following triangle and then find the measure of the missing angles. Now using what I did before, let me label this as 60 just so I know what I'm talking about. And opposite of 30 is always going to be x. So I'm always going to say that this x equals 15. Now, opposite of the 60 is always going to be x square root of 3. So this is x square root of 3. And opposite of the 90 is always going to be 2x. Now, how does this help us solve this? Well, if I know x equals 15, then this right here, over here, you just substitute in that 15, so you get 15 square root of 3. And this side over here, what's 2 times 15? Probably already got it, it's 30. So if I were to redraw the triangle just to kind of, oops, that's kind of not straight, but you know, I tried. If this is 60, if this is 30, then I know that this right here is always going to be 15 in this case. This right here is going to be 15 square root of 3. You leave it just like that. And this right here is going to be 30. And that's all you have to do for your final answer. Now here's a couple more examples. Go ahead and, like I said last time, label everything. So opposite of 30 is always going to be x. Opposite of 60 or next to 30 is always going to be x squared root of 3. And up here is always going to be 2x. So if I were to label this, I like redrawing it just so that you can see what it actually is. I will get that this right here is 10. This is 10 square root of 3. And this right here would be 20. Hopefully you're starting to see the pattern. I'll try one more before you move on to the classwork. This is 60, this is 30. Opposite of 30 is always going to be x. Hypotenuse is always 2x. This one is always x squared root of 3. Now this one's a little trickier because now you don't actually know what x is, but you do know this over here. So you do know that 2x equals 6 or x equals 3. So with that, you can solve everything again, and if I were to redraw the triangle, I'll try to draw this one a little better. If this is 30, this is 60, then now I know that this over here is going to be 6, just like the image shows us. This over here is going to be 3. This is going to be 3 square root of 3. Now don't get too afraid of the radicals. Just leave them like that for now. But keep trying. Try the classwork. I'll be walking around. And besides that, good luck and let me know if you have any questions.